I guess that leads me to the next question. At Waubonsee,
Mhm.
you talked a little bit about some of the majors and educations that people are pursuing, but let's dive into the campus a little bit more, campus life, what's available beyond baseball, beyond academics, and that can also be in the neighborhood as well. I know you're near Chicago. I got family from Chicago, so like, what is appealing, into the campus and the surrounding neighborhoods as well?
Well, I think Chicago, we're 50 miles west of Chicago. So Chicago gets the reputation of being a little bit of a rough area. It's actually not. Waubonesee's far enough away where you don't get caught up in the nonsense. You don't get caught up in the rat race. But it's close enough where if you want to go catch a Cubs game or a Sox game, you can do that. So for our guys, we do not have campus housing. But for the athletes, what we do is if they come in from out of district or from out of the area, we group them up in the houses, and they can pretty much get that full college experience. So earlier we talked, you brought up that we're broadening our program. We're actually restricting it. So if you go back to when Coach Unger was the head coach and I was his assistant, we had more of a national program. Our kids came from all over the country. At one point, I think we had 6 kids who started in our lineup that were not from Illinois. We had a kid from Hawaii, a kid from Texas, that were all in the lineup at one time. So when I interviewed for the job, they made it clear that the school administrators wanted to make it more of a local in-district flavor. So about 70% of the kids, they've asked me to try and hold that number as in-district. So out of district, like you said, 1/3. So when I took over the program, I really didn't get a chance to extend myself regionally yet. COVID has made it kind of difficult to ask a young man to commit to 1 year, especially if you're going to come in from out of state. I really haven't crossed that yet, but next year you can expect that I'll be going out of the area. So to bring in an athlete from out of state, we'll group them up in the houses locally. I try and keep it very close, within 10 to 15 minutes of the campus. Believe it or not, we have to be cognizant of where they live because you want them on big streets. Because out here, Sugar Grove is kind of in a farm area. So when it snows, if we bring in a kid from Texas who's never seen snow, he might have trouble driving. So we try and keep the houses on big streets so that they can get right to campus and real easy, because those snow drifts will cover the streets up easily. But we have great facilities. If you get online, we're very, very blessed. A field house that allows us to practice year-round, weight room, weight facilities that are strictly for the student athletes. We have a trainer that also has a program that they bring assistant trainers from local 4-year schools like Northern Illinois or Aurora University. And they come in and they assist the trainers. So we have trainers on site. We have a strength and conditioning coordinator that the school is going to hire this year. So the facilities are better than probably a lot of Division I schools, Division II schools. And then also it's a safe environment. One of the things that I'm very proud of is when you get on campus, if I can get you as a recruit to visit the campus, it's one of the most beautiful campuses in the country. I think people would be shocked that it's a junior college. Security is tremendous. The college has its own security force, so very rarely have we ever had an issue on campus. I can't even think of the last one. But it offers a lot. It's well-rounded, so there's a safe rural environment, but you can get to that urban environment if you want to in a pretty quick minute. Probably the biggest thing that I would think in the area that it's noted for is Aurora has this gigantic shopping mall, this outlet shopping mall. It's within 15 minutes. But there's all kinds of things that the campus offers and that the community offers. Food, really diverse background of people, not too far away. But yeah, I think it's a good environment, good healthy environment.
And to get back to the housing thing, like on-campus housing, like that's an easy conversation. I can understand why it's appealing, but I've had a couple coaches at the JUCO level discuss how if you find the right apartment or house, you grow up quicker and you actually, because you have to be responsible. You got a landlord, and you have to grow up a little quicker, and at the same time, you do end up saving money sometimes compared to what you would pay for on-campus food and housing. You know, if you're buying your own groceries, you know, and I'm sure, you know, that's probably something you have to try to hold your own players accountable for. You know, if you see them like getting sloppy, or, you know, you gotta go a little dad on them.
That's part of being a JUCO head coach. I don't want to speak for the other divisions, but definitely for being a JUCO Division III head coach, there's a little bit of that, being a mentor, you know, a little bit of hand holding, although I'm trying to eliminate that. We want them to be 100% completely responsible for themselves. But yeah, you hit on the head. So just think about it in terms of you're putting 4 guys together that have never met each other, that have all coming from different areas in the country. One of the questions we like to ask are you a morning guy or a night guy? And the kids always kind of laugh. And we're like, you know, this is a serious question, because you're going to wake up in the morning and maybe that pan that you like to make your eggs with is always dirty and it's in the sink. Well, after about, you know, maybe the first week, it's cool because you're a brand new student. This is fun. But after month 3 of you having to wash that dish because this other guy doesn't wash his dish, you're going to want to hit him over the head with that pan. So we try and ask some questions at the beginning when they come in, so we match up like people. You know, like you don't want 2 guys in a house where one guy likes to play Fortnite all night and the other guy likes to wake up early in the morning and get going. So you try and match personalities. That's something we do at the beginning. In fact, we're going to have that housing meeting very shortly where we try and match those guys up. But yeah, there's no doubt you're gonna be fast when you're left. I mean, the first time I did my laundry on campus, I remember everything turned pink. I didn't know you could put something red in there, you know. So you're going to learn different things really quick. Cooking for yourself is probably the first one. But yeah.
But that's life, baseball. Like it's such a metaphor. Like I tell kids all the time, like if you fail 70% in this game, you're a Hall of Famer. It's the same thing in life. If you really look closely, if you're failing 70% of the time in life, you're actually doing okay. Now, there's certain jobs and things, like if I'm a doctor and I'm failing 70% of the time, that's no good. You know, even if I'm working at McDonald's, I don't want to be failing 70% of the time. But like just in general, like we learn from our mistakes. And I think if you're put into that housing situation, like you'll make more mistakes, but you'll correct them quickly too. Like you know, as a former teacher, I used to always use the example of like exponential growth. Like life is more exponential than gradual. So you're going to screw up, your house is going to suck for a month, and all of a sudden you'll get it. And then you hold the habit, you know, learn how to make your bed, and then everything else goes in. It's like dominoes.
Well, isn't that the beautiful thing about baseball? You said it. It mimics life. I mean, baseball is a microcosm of life.
Yep.
If you got your act together off the field, you're probably going to have your act together on the field. You know, so for me, even the innings, you know, the early stages, you're in a baseball game, you're aggressive early. Well, in life, you're aggressive early. Well, later on, maybe in the 8th and 9th, then you're not so aggressive. You know, as you are maybe later in life, you're not so aggressive. I just think the whole thing about baseball, however you look at it, it's a microcosm of life. To me, that's the beauty of baseball, is I can get on the field. It's a place I can test things out, and it's a benign place. I slide in hard to second base. I take a kid out. We want to fight. Yeah, but as soon as we walk off the field, it's over. And I just learned a lesson. So I can practice some things. You know, you can practice emotions, being greedy, being jealous of somebody, being angry. But again, you walk off the field, and then we forget about it. So that's what I think the beauty of baseball. You can practice all of these things in a safe environment, and there's no repercussions. So that's really what I like about baseball, especially for guys at this level. I mean, you know, for me, my parents could have told me, don't do that, don't do that. It didn't matter. I had to slam my head against the wall to find out. That's the way I learned.
It's a combination of both. It's like, you know, sometimes like with students, I would always tell them, like, I don't expect you to listen. I just expect you to remember. Because there's going to be a point in time where it's like, there is no getting out of it. And like, oh man, he's right. And then just apply it from there on out. Like, it's all good.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I want to get back to talking about your, and I thought this was interesting. Like you said, you're looking out of state now.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the reasons I tried to reach out to you is, hey, I got some players down here and I'm encouraging them to call schools out of state. So let's talk about what you look for in a physical recruit, and then also the mental side as well. Cause I know you know, we could talk about some talented players, but I could say something about a mindset and you'll say no.
Right.
So let's talk about what you're looking for physically and also for mindset, so these players have a better idea if you're a good fit.
So I'm probably a little bit more traditional in the way that I recruit. And the reason I say that is because I think the baseball's kind of got this backwards, the recruiting process. You know, we get kids to commit early, and then those late bloomers are kind of passed over, right? So I'm not a big fan of how we do things as a business right now. So what I personally am looking for is I really rely on people like you, guys who I respect, guys who are right there with the student athlete and really know the student athlete, you know, from top to bottom. You know, I haven't been around that player like you have. I don't know their family. I don't know the background. I'm not. I don't shy away from a kid with rough edges. I don't shy away from a kid like that, especially if you're telling me it's a good kid, you know, who deserves an opportunity. So I look for guys like you. I take their word for it, guys I trust. So that's where I begin. And then, like I told you earlier, I'm not necessarily looking for the best baseball player, but I am looking for an athlete. I'm looking for a guy who's going to develop, maybe who hasn't had a whole lot of professional coaching. You know, because if you've already been professionally coached, you've kind of had some of the top end of you. You might have had that coached out of you already. All right. And I'm not looking to set limits. So yeah, as a coach, I've learned over the last 25 years that the less I do, the guys tend to do better. And I'll be honest with you, the last two guys in our program right now, I did very, very little instructing or coaching with them. Everything I did was challenging. I would literally walk up to them and I would literally walk up to Tyler Venditti, one of our pitchers, and I would say to him, hey, Barrett hit 88 today. And then I knew that would put a burr in his backside. It would make him go harder. So I'm looking for that guy who's got some grit, got that chip on his shoulder, and then really has a drive to get better. If I have to kick a guy in the pants every day to get him motivated, that's not the guy I'm looking for. So that's what you're talking about, mentality. I really am going to ask you that kind of question. Is this guy self-motivated? Does this guy have drive to be better on a daily basis? So that's one of the qualities that I think all of our student athletes on the baseball program here at Waubonsee, I think they all share that. They all want to be better. They all want to get to that next level. And then all of them, I think, have the dream of playing in the major leagues. So that's number one. So, but again, that I get from a coach who really knows the athlete. So once you and we talk about a player, and then I find something I like about that prospective student athlete, then what I like to do is I like to reach out and I like to have a 15-minute phone call. And really it's just a touch base, verify everything that you've said, and then I try and get a feel for the student athlete. And then at that point, what I do is I'll send them an email, and in that email, there's some interactive links where they can kind of get a feel for our campus. They can look at some of the history of the program. I encourage them to speak to their mentors. I encourage them to speak to their parents, because this really is a family decision. You need to have a good support group if you're going to be successful. All right. So once we get past that point, then I like to have a conversation with the student athlete and his parent or his mentor. And then I really go in depth into the program. I'm not looking to put a square peg in a round hole. If you aren't coming here to grind, if you aren't coming here to work hard, if you aren't coming here to sacrifice, then I'm going to encourage you to find another place. And really, I will help that student athlete find another place. I'm looking for that person to find the place where they're going to be most successful. So during that conversation, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Are we a fit for each other? And then if you just want to be more, I can be more selfish, explain it. As a head coach, the benefit is I get to pick who I want to spend the day with. So that's what I'm kind of doing at that point. Once I have that conversation with the family, I'll leave my cell phone or my email wide open. They can call me, email me as much as they want, ask questions. I usually don't put a time constraint on the decision making. But for us, while we don't offer athletic scholarships, we offer academic scholarships. So there's a deadline of February 13th or usually in February where you have to apply for those scholarships. So I just ask them to make a decision by that time, just so we can help them get the paperwork in, and then maybe they'll get one of the scholarships. It doesn't matter if you're local, if you're out of state or out of district. So the next step then at that point is, once we get comfortable after phone calls, is I'll invite them out for a campus visit. I'll take them around the campus with another coach, depending on what type of player, if they're a pitcher only, if they're a two-way player, position player, I'll bring the respective coach with us, and we'll walk around and we'll show them the facilities, go over the program, and then I'll release them with a student athlete, one of the actual baseball players. And at that time, I encourage them. Ask them if coach is full of, hot air. Ask those questions. I want the parents to ask them, do the coaches meet up to what they're promising? Again, I'm not looking to put a square peg in a round hole, both ways. So if they're not comfortable with the decision, then I'm happy when we find that out early, because the last thing I want to do is fight with a guy for 2 years, and make it uncomfortable for everybody. So I really try and do our due diligence at the beginning, so we find the right fit. But again, I'm not looking for the best baseball player. I'm looking for an athlete, a well-rounded guy. So I like to hear when they play basketball. I like to hear when they play football. I mean, to me, one of the greatest combinations is that football baseball player, that hockey baseball player. That hockey mentality is really the kind of guy that we're looking for. So the process can take anywhere from 2 to 8 months, depending on the player and his parents. But again, I'm trying to find the right fit. Again, no square peg in the round hole.
Hey, you were talking about your coaches, and I think that's always an important thing to bring up in these interviews, so we can share some more information on your staff, because I think that's another thing kids need to realize is not just you. They're going to be building relationships with like 4, 5, 6 gentlemen here. So why don't you take some time to tell me about your coaching staff and their backgrounds and philosophies?
Well, I'll start with our coaches. So you hit it on the head. Here's what's really important. When you come into a program as a student, I'm going to ask you to find somebody in the school that's a mentor. It doesn't have to be me. Not everybody wants to share their life with their head coach all the time, So, but just for support, especially if you're from out of the area, find one of the staff that you really hit it off with, so that you feel comfortable with somebody going to them to ask questions, whether if it's something just as simple as, hey, how do I get to the cafeteria? Or if it's something more serious where you're having, stress issues, because that all comes up if you're feeling homesick or what have you. But I want you to have a mentor on campus. So for us, our coaching staff, my number one right-hand guy is a guy named Sean Corning. He's a pitcher. He pitched at Madison in junior college, and then went on to pitch at Wisconsin Platteville, and he was drafted. He's a lefty, and I think there's a story about him pitching with a torn UCL for the whole year. He's a beast, and he'll still throw batting practice, and he's probably about 30, 32 years old. He still plays baseball on the weekends, and when he throws BP, I noticed that, he starts out and it's fun at first, but it gets competitive. If somebody touches him, he starts to light it up a little bit, and he likes to embarrass the guys. So, but that's our pitching coach, and he's my right-hand guy. One of the longest-standing coaches we have in the program is Tim Bradburn. He also helps out with the pitching. He's actually been there longer than I have. This would be his 9th season. Also, we have Derek Smith. He's a local businessman. All of these guys have lives outside of, we'd love to all be professional coaches. They all have lives outside of Waubonsee. Our pitching coach, Sean, is also a strength and conditioning guy by trade. And then he also works for AT&T now. Derek Smith is a business owner locally. He puts on programs for communities, youth programs for communities, municipalities that don't have it, don't offer it. So he'll run their flag football program, or he'll run their wiffle ball program or softball. He also runs a local travel program called Savage. He'll do the hitters and the infielders. He's got a young stepson that plays college baseball. He's obviously very knowledgeable and been through all the routes because of the travel program that he has. We have a former athlete, Ivan Santos, who played at Waubonsee not too long ago. He helps us with the hitting. He's from Miami. and he actually transplanted to Sugar Grove. He loves Sugar Grove so much. They actually transplanted. And then we have an intern from Louisville who's helping us with our analytics. We use Rapsodo and we use Blast. And he's a number cruncher. And I don't think he would tell you that he's a baseball guy. But the beauty is that he understands the connection between the analytics and the baseball side. And he's worked real hard to help tie those two together. So he'll give you, here's your analytical information. He'll show you your profile on Rapsodo or on Blast, but then he can help you find drills to help fix whatever the issue he sees with your numbers. Very, very literal, very analytical, not subjective at all. So he's real cool to have. And the guys all like him. He's very genuine. It's like if he doesn't know, he'll tell you he doesn't know, but he goes and finds the answer. You can tell he's a grinder too. But that pretty much is our staff from last year. We're adding another coach named Jim Pfeiffer. He coached, he played at Illinois State, played a little bit of minor league baseball, and then has some ties to the Oakland A's organization. We actually have done a few Zoom meetings over COVID with a couple of coaches from the Oakland A's. They were kind enough to share their time with us. Aaron Nakula, who is the spring training coordinator, and then Adam Rosales, who's a coach with the A's. He played baseball, Major League Baseball, not too long ago. They've been doing some mentoring with us, and we're real lucky. So the coaching staff is a real good group of guys with a lot of different experiences in their background. And I think that's the biggest thing we lend, is that I think that no matter what the mistake is, we've probably made it as a staff. So we could probably talk to the student athlete about how to avoid that mistake. But each of the guys are very, very genuine, really heartfelt. Some of the stuff I've heard them share, not afraid at all to show some of their weaknesses to help the athlete, so that they avoid those mistakes. And then as far as their strengths, they're all baseball guys. That's the beautiful part about it, is I think they live, eat, and breathe baseball.